Okay, we're jumping right in because something huge just happened that almost nobody noticed. But believe me, it could have a massive impact on your savings, your wallet, and your future. The Federal Reserve made a really quiet move, and we're here to break down exactly what it means for your money.
So, what was this move? Well, it all went down on a day that seemed totally normal, December 1st, 2025. What sounded like just more bureaucratic background noise was in reality the first domino to fall in a massive chain of events. And look, that's not an exaggeration. This one little decision is kicking off a cycle that we literally just saw a few years ago. You know, the one that created this giant gap between people who own assets and people who don't. The stakes here, they're incredibly high.
Now, to really get what's going on, you have to remember one crucial thing about the Fed. Their job is not to help you get rich. Nope. Their job is to keep the entire financial system from collapsing under the weight of massive government debt in crazy markets. And to do that, they just flipped a very, very important switch.
And here it is. This is the move. The Fed announced they were ending something called Quantitative Tightening, or QT for short. For the last couple of years, this has been their main weapon to fight inflation. Basically, they were sucking money out of the economy to cool things down. And now, they've just stopped.
I know. All this quantitative talk can sound super complicated, so let's use a really simple analogy to make it crystal clear. I want you to think of the entire economy as a giant bathtub. The Fed? Well, they're the ones who control the faucet and the drain.
For years, the Fed's favorite tool was quantitative easing, or QE. This is like them turning the faucet on full blast. They just pump trillions of brand new dollars into the system. The result? It's cheaper to borrow money, businesses can expand, and the prices of things like stocks and houses go way, way up.
But when that bathtub starts to overflow, and that overflow is inflation, they have to open the drain. That's quantitative tightening, QT. They stop adding money and actually let it disappear from the system. This makes borrowing more expensive, slows down spending, and is supposed to get prices back under control. This is what they've been doing. Until now. So they've closed the drain, the water level isn't going down anymore. But here's the twist, and this is the important part. They haven't just stopped draining the tub. Oh no. They're getting ready to turn the faucet back on, but they're giving it a different, more technical-sounding name this time.
The Fed called it a pause in their tightening policy. But just 10 days later, they announced a new program, Reserve Management Purchases. So what on earth does that mean? Well, in simple terms, they're creating new money out of thin air to buy up government debt. It's their way of making sure the whole system has plenty of cash and stays stable.
And this quote just illustrates the point perfectly. The Fed can insist all day long that RMP is not QE. But when you're creating new money to buy assets, you're expanding the money supply. It has the exact same effect. You can call it whatever you want, you're still eating cake. So the crucial point is, that faucet is coming back on.
Before we go further, if this is making sense so far, hit the like button and drop a comment with your take. I read them.
So, why is this such a huge deal? Because we have seen this exact playbook before, and very, very recently. And the results? They were a massive, totally predictable, and deeply unequal transfer of wealth. Let's just take a quick look at what happened the last time they turned on the money faucet.
Get this, between early 2020 and 2022, the Fed printed nearly $5 trillion. To put that into perspective for you, that's more than the entire economy of Japan. They absolutely flooded the system with just an unprecedented amount of cash to keep things afloat during the pandemic. So where did all that money go? Who benefited? Well, it created what's called a K-shaped recovery, and you can see it so clearly on this chart. If you owned assets like stocks or a house, your wealth exploded. The S&P 500 shot up 28%, housing prices soared 18%. But if you earned your money from a salary, your real wages actually went down by 3% because inflation just ate away at your purchasing power.
So let's just lay out the consequences plain and simple. Asset owners saw their net worth soar. Savers, the people who kept their money in cash, they saw their spending power get absolutely crushed by 9% inflation. Your groceries, your rent, your gas, everything got more expensive. This was not an accident. The system is designed to work this way.
Okay, so that's the problem. The Fed's playbook helps owners, not earners. But here's the thing, the system is also predictable. So the real question becomes, how do you adapt? How do you position yourself to actually benefit from this instead of getting hurt by it? Let's make this personal. Let's take two people, Dave and Sarah. Dave is super responsible.
He saved up $60,000 in cash, but inflation is silently eating away at its value. He's actually getting poorer and doesn't even realize it. Now his coworker, Sarah, she invested that same 60 grand in a simple S&P 500 index fund. Her investment grew significantly, way faster than inflation. She understood the game the Fed was playing.
And hey, this isn't just some short-term thing, just look at the long-term numbers here. $10,000 sitting in a savings account over 30 years, it might grow to about $24,000. But that same $10,000 in the stock market, earning a pretty standard historical average return, could grow to over $100,000. I mean, that is a life-changing difference. And it all comes down to one thing: owning assets.
So, what's the big takeaway here? 3 simple things. First, you have to understand the Fed's goal, system stability, which, let's be honest, means propping up asset prices. Second, you have to realize that cash is not safe. Inflation is a guaranteed tax that will devalue it over time. And third, the logical step is to own a piece of the game. Get your money into the kinds of assets that will grow.
Look, at the end of the day, you can't change the Fed's playbook, but the system is predictable. Once you understand the rules of the game, you can change your own strategy. You can choose to be a Dave, or you can choose to be a Sarah. So the final question is, knowing what's probably coming down the pike, how will you choose to position yourself?
If you found this breakdown valuable, make sure you subscribe, share this with someone who needs to see it, and drop your thoughts below.